Hi there and welcome to Saving Ophelia. My name is Thijs and this is Ophelia. As you can see, she really needs a new paint job. She needs to have a paint stripped and, sandblasted and then new paint applied. But we have a worse issue than that because we do have some holes in the hull. Down here we have a through hull that's broken and it's only kept in place by a sponge and a wooden plug. And I would like to have that welded, but in order to that, I need to get Ophelia out of the water, and that turns out to be a bit of an issue. In the town where Ophelia is, this harbour here, there are 3 places where we can get Ophelia out of the water. There's a big slipway back here. There's a small one. Well, we can't see it from here, but it's back there behind that hole there, and then way back there, the yellow building, there's a crane that can lift her. And we do have a bit of an issue with that because Ophelia is quite a heavy girl. She's 18 tons and I thought that would be an issue, but it's not really because the slipway doesn't matter. They don't matter. They don't care about the weight at all. Neither does the small one. The crane can lift up to, I think it's 36 tons, but we'll have a closer look later. But what does seem to matter is Ophelia's draught, because she's has a draught about 2.4 meters all the way down there, and that turns out to be a bit of an issue. Yeah, this is the travel crane, and you just need to get the boat out here and lying down here, and then they can lift it up. They have 2 cranes, one on either side, and they can lift, if I remember correctly, about 36 tons, which is quite a bit, and double up Ophelia's weight. The problem is down there though, because the water is apparently only 2 meters deep, and with 2 meters and 40, that's going to be a problem. So if we could get in here, they would be able to lift Ophelia, but we can't get in here as it is right now. Yeah, this is the small slipway. As you can see, you can't see, but it's not very big really. And the cradle out here seems to fit Ophelia quite nicely. It's a lot wider than she is at the moment, but it can easily be adjusted back to being a lot narrower. The problem isn't really the slipway here, not the cradle. The problem is down here, because the end of these rails, the water's only 2 meters deep. And that means that, we can't get Ophelia into the cradle unless there's exceptionally high water. And then we'd risk being stuck in the cradle until the water is exceptionally high again. There's no telling when that might be. So we would be on a really strict timer regarding the work. This is a very old slipway actually. It's one of the few old ones left here. There's only 2 slipways left, and this is the oldest one. As you can see, it's actually run by the museum, but it doesn't have to be an old boat that you need to get pulled out in order to use that slipway. You just have to pay whatever it is that they want. I haven't checked the price yet. It was probably a lot less than the big one. But you can see there's a lot of old boats around here. Most of them just have a normal slip here, but sometimes some of them get pulled up into the slipway when they need something done. That one, it's just a museum piece. It's never going to be a boat. It's just to show how boats were built at this spot. Yeah, this is the big slipway, as you can see here. And the depth, the Ophelia's draught is really not a problem here. There's plenty of water out here. I think there's about 4 meters right out there. But we do have a bit of an issue with, the hoist here itself, because, that cradle up there, it's quite enormous. And the minimum width it can take is just about the same as Ophelia's width. Her official width, because it seems like in reality Ophelia is a slight bit smaller than her official width, and that cradle has to be able to fit her. She has to be able to lean against those, and we can't use too many wooden blocks we could, but apparently then there's a bit of an issue with the insurance. So yeah, it might not work, and we can't really know for sure because they all just set that to the minimum, and then we'll try to fit Ophelia in there. And if there's too much of a gap to the side, well, then we'll have to abort, and that would be annoying as hell. So that'll be the big slipway. Now, beyond the uncertainty with the big slipway and the risk of having to abort the haul out in the middle of, the haul out, there's also a small matter of the price, because the big slipway is intended for larger ships, and that means that it's not exactly cheap. According to the harbour master, the price is around 800 euros. That would be around $850 for the haul out. And to that you have to add a daily fee of 70 euros or around $75. So it's not exactly cheap. And well, uncertainty, price, well, that more or less makes the big slipway a no-go. Except of course if it turns out that I really haven't got any other options, then I'll have to do that. So I reached out to other shipyards nearby, and there are a few, but unfortunately they either haven't called back, or they haven't been able to help. And the problem is always the same. It's the draught of Ophelia, because once you exceed 2 meters, then most of them don't have the water depth outside their crane or the slipway to take a boat in. So I'll have to do something about that. Even the big shipyard at the end, well, the other end of the island, unfortunately hasn't been able to help. They have a crane that's definitely big enough, and it's usually used to haul fairly big things onto other project boats. And when I say boats, I mean ships, fairly big ones. And they could easily lift Ophelia, and they do have the water depth right outside the crane to lift her, but that crane is currently configured for, well, the project on the big ships, and they aren't going to reconfigure it for something as small as Ophelia, so it would be probably quite a while before they would be able to help. I can't really wait for that. So I have to do something else. And well, what can I do? Well, considering the fact that the draft is a problem, I can try to do something about that. And seeing that I can't make Ophelia wide and shallow like a lot of modern boats, which would definitely solve the problem, but yeah, let's be real here, I have to make her float higher. And I can do that by reducing her weight, because, well, Ophelia is a heavy girl. And I have already shaved off quite a lot of weight with all the stuff I pulled out. And that reduces the draft. When you reduce the weight, the boat floats higher in the water. So I'll need to figure out what Ophelia's current draft is, so I can see if it's realistic to get near the 2 meters, because I do have a few more options. You've seen how much I pulled out, but I also still have the masts on the deck, and they weigh in the order of 500 kilograms to about a ton. So that would reduce it a bit, and there's also a lot of the stainless that I could remove, but it's not as much weight in comparison to the work I would have to do. So I'll start with the masts, or well, more correctly, I'll start figuring out what Ophelia's draft is, and then probably move the masts. I can't really measure Ophelia's draft directly, but I can do a small trick, because, well, I know the distance from Ophelia's deck line, the line between the deck and the hull, and down to the bottom of the keel, and I can actually measure the length from that deck line and straight down to the water line with this. So I'll do that, then I can subtract those two and find the draft. How deep is she below the water? I'm using a weighted string here because doing that gives me a strictly vertical measurement, whereas I might end up measuring at an angle if I were to use a ruler. Measuring at an angle would give me a measured distance down to the water's surface that is slightly longer than the actual distance, resulting in me underestimating Ophelia's draft, which could cause a bit of an issue later on. 83 centimeters. Now I need to check the other side as well, because, well, Ophelia's mast is, well, both masts are lying on her deck. That means she's tilted to the port side, so she's probably higher at the starboard side than she's at the port side. Well, she should be at least. So I'll go do that. Yeah, 76 centimeters. So we'll just take the average of those two. That should give us the true distance from the deck line to the water line. Well, to the water surface really, and then we can calculate the rest. So with that measurement in place, we need to figure out exactly what the distance is from the deck line, which we have up here, to the bottom of the keel, which will be the lowest point of Ophelia, which is down here. And I measured the distance from the deck line to the water up here, so that might be a good place. You can see the keel slants a little bit this way, but it's not enough to make a real difference. But let's see anyway. The distance up here is something on the line of, well, 11.5 centimeters. If I pull that line back to the keel, that will be 12 centimeters. And this drawing is drawn at a scale of 1 to 25. Well, you can see that over here. And that means that those 12 centimeters would be 3 meters, 300 centimeters. And I have an approximate distance of 80 centimeters, which leaves 2 meters and 20. So from the water to the bottom of the keel in the real world, we now have 2 meters and 20. That's awfully close to 2 meters. So with a current draft of 2.2 meters or thereabouts, it does seem realistic that I can, well, if I remove the mast, that I'll get down to 2.1 or maybe around 2 meters, which would be good enough. And I also still have a lot of stuff lying around the boat that I could remove, probably a couple of 100 kilograms at least. And I also have a 60% full diesel tank. That's around 300 liters of diesel, and that would be around 270 kilograms of mass, which would also make a difference. So it seems like it's possible to reach the 2 meters of draft, which would make the crane back here accessible and a lot of other places as well. So I'm going to do that, but I'm not going to do it right now, and it'll be at least another week or so before the next episode. Well, what I'm talking about, more than a week. Usually I would wait a week, but the fall vacation has just started today. My kids just started, and we're going to be traveling for the next week or so, so I won't be able to record anything or actually get any work done down here. So 2 weeks from now, I hope I'll have the next episode ready, and probably around moving the masts and stuff like that. Anyways, I hope you got an idea about the situation I'm working with right now and what I'm going to do about it, and I hope you'll tag along again next episode, and have a good one until then.